I ain't no cop. I ain't no lawyer. I watch Law and Order. You know what I'm saying? And the way this is going, it looks like a certain type of thing is going down. Chaotic. It's hard to actually figure out what's what, but it's becoming clearer. It's becoming clearer and clearer. But
for years, we thought we knew the Vegas tragedy. The flashing lights, the roaring BMW, the gunfire that ended an era, but tonight, everything changes. Mopim Shakur, Tupac's own brother, just dropped a bombshell. The story we were told? A cover-up. A carefully crafted lie to hide the truth. According to him, Tupac might not be gone. He could still be alive, in hiding, and his real enemy? Not a random rival, but one of hip-hop's most powerful figures, Diddy.
the boy Puffy called me though. Puffy called me back in the day. Back in the day, he called me. He was like, "I just want you to know I ain't have nothing to do with your brother's."
The ground is shifting, and this isn't some random theory. This is family. Blood. Truth. Mopim Shakur, Tupac's brother, went on Piers Morgan and stared straight into the camera, calm but deadly serious. When asked about Diddy's long denials, Mop didn't hold back. He said he had serious doubts, reminding us of a chilling warning he gave Diddy nearly 20 years ago: the truth always comes out. Back in 2008, Diddy himself called Mopim through radio host Big Boy, swearing he had nothing to do with Tupac's Vegas shooting. But Mop didn't buy it. Now, 27 years later, cracks are showing. Insiders whisper the same things. The story we thought we knew? It's unraveling.
I mean, that's Puffy's homie. You know what I mean? They have a relationship. They're friendly. They know each other.
And it gets darker. Mop's doubts aren't random, they tie back to a shadowy history stretching to 1996. Insiders whispered about Diddy having a cleanup crew, a silent squad that erased threats after dangerous incidents. Witnesses went quiet. Files vanished. Cases stalled. Could this explain why, after nearly 3 decades, only one man, Keith D., was officially charged, while dozens of others never saw a courtroom? Even law enforcement documents hint at it. In a secretly recorded police interview, Diddy's name came up over 40 times in connection to Tupac. Keith D. claimed Diddy offered millions for the heads of Shakur and Suge Knight. He allegedly said, "I'll give anything for that dude's head." If it was just talk, why do so many retellings match word for word? And why is that tape still locked away decades later?
I think that they don't want, if they was in any of those freak-off tapes, if they played a part in any of those Diddy sessions, they don't want it to get out to the general public to make up the...
Meanwhile, Diddy's empire is crumbling under scandal, arrested for racketeering, facing trials for trafficking and coercion. His name isn't just linked to wild parties anymore, it's tied to something much darker. During raids on his mansions, agents reportedly discovered files stamped with Cuba. That single word sparks the oldest rumor of all: Tupac may have staged his own disappearance, fleeing to the island where his aunt, Assata Shakur, has lived in exile for decades. Fans have long whispered of sightings in Havana, grainy footage of a man with the same gaze, the same shaved head, the same intensity. Could those files be evidence that Diddy helped control the narrative of Tupac's disappearance? Let's not forget Michael Nice, Tupac's former bodyguard, who claimed he helped smuggle him out, even saying Castro sanctioned the exile. Nice alleged Tupac switched bodies at the hospital and escaped to Cuba via Barbados, but before he could release proof, he vanished. So now, when federal raids uncover Cuban references in Diddy's files, one question haunts us: was Nice telling the truth all along? And why would Diddy have documents linking him to it?
I always say, Keisha, I'm not going to live, past a certain time, or, I know I'm going to get shot up. He knew that. That was, the one thing that he did.
The questions keep piling up. Why did no one see the shooter on one of Vegas' busiest nights? Why were Tupac's height and weight listed wrong on the coroner's report? Why did the cremator retire immediately afterward? And why did Suge Knight hint years later that Tupac might still be alive, telling TMZ in 2014, "Why you think nobody been arrested? 'Cause Shakur not gone." Each detail alone is strange. Together, they form a map of deception. Now, with Mop's revelations making headlines, we have to ask, is the story finally ready to explode? Mop is cautious, he knows this is still unfolding, but even his restraint says everything. If Diddy were innocent, he'd say it. Instead, he points to doubts, whispers, and says, once more, we going to see. After nearly 30 years carrying the weight of his brother's loss, Mop isn't wasting words. The time for lies is ending. The truth has claws, and it might just be coming for Diddy.
Part of the indictment, that's somewhat like a blackmail. He was blackmailing people to be in the freak-offs. So, that's federal. That could be that's a federal charge. He can't blackmail people to say, yo, listen here, you did it once and you're going to do it again. That ain't gonna make it with the governor, no.
Meanwhile, prosecutors in Diddy's ongoing trial are struggling with missing witnesses. One alleged victim, Victim 3, has vanished unreachable even by her own lawyer. If witnesses disappear now, what might have happened back in 1996, when the stakes were even higher? Could the so-called cleanup squad still be at work, woven into the machinery of his empire? And then there's the Cuba theory. Every time new evidence surfaces, Havana's shadow looms over the story. Was Diddy hiding the fact that Tupac lived, tucked away in the Caribbean? Did he profit from power and influence while the world believed Tupac was gone and he alone knew the truth? What secrets in those files were so dangerous that federal agents had to comb through them during raids?
I ain't trying to say that's some kind of conspiracy, and maybe some other shit was going on, or this, that, and the third. But brother, he had that conversation with K. Slade 2 weeks before he was murdered.
Behind the glittering awards, platinum plaques, and endless after-parties, Bad Boy Records is starting to look less like a music label and more like a criminal empire draped in silk. The stories emerging now are darker than any East versus West rivalry ever put on wax. Prosecutors describe the infamous freak-off parties not as wild nights, but as staged shows of control, where Diddy allegedly forced people into degrading situations, filmed them, and kept the tapes as weapons. Add in human trafficking charges, racketeering counts, and vanished witnesses, and Diddy's image as a charismatic mogul begins to morph into a kingpin running a secret society. Bad Boy wasn't just making hits, it was a machine. Loyalty was enforced by fear. Saying no wasn't an option. Favors turned into debts, and debts could get ugly. If this same machinery was active back in 1996, it's easy to see how the aftermath of Tupac's shooting could have been controlled, manipulated, or buried. Witnesses disappear. Files vanish. And those who speak up either retract or vanish themselves. No wonder the Vegas investigation seemed cursed from day one. Now, with federal agents combing every corner of his empire, Bad Boy's skeletons are finally rattling out.
But I'm still a little suspicious about the timing and how it's all rolled out here.
The most explosive revelation may be the so-called Cuba files, a phrase that slipped out of raid inventories like a spark in a room full of gasoline. Federal agents seized boxes of documents and digital drives during raids on Diddy's estates. Among them, this cryptic label. What's inside remains unknown, but speculation has already gone into overdrive. Could these files hold encrypted messages from the 90s, hush payments, or even proof that Tupac went into exile instead of a coffin? Conspiracy watchers are electrified, connecting it to decades of alleged sightings in Havana. Locals claim to have seen a man matching Tupac's build, moving quietly through side streets and cafes, then disappearing again. If Diddy maintained a private cache of notes, images, or recordings referencing those sightings, it wouldn't just show awareness, it would suggest active involvement in keeping the illusion alive. The Cuba files might not just be documents, they could be the missing link between rumor and reality.
They laid the blueprint for me, and they're not here anymore. So I always want to make sure that, through me, what I'm saying, through all of us,
What makes this discovery truly chilling is the timing. The Cuba files surfaced during raids meant to target trafficking and coercion, not unsolved shootings from nearly 30 years ago. That overlap suggests Diddy's alleged double life as mogul and shadow operator may have spanned decades, with one crime shielding another. If investigators uncover communications with Cuban intermediaries, it could be explosive. The raid intended to dismantle his modern empire might accidentally unravel hip-hop's oldest mystery. Here's the psychological twist: if the Cuba files exist in detail, it's not just Diddy in the spotlight. Moving and protecting someone like Tupac would have required layers of cooperation, political allies, financial backers, maybe even international intelligence. A network like that can't survive decades without silence at the top. So we have to ask, how many powerful figures were complicit, and how far would they go to keep the truth buried?
He named Diddy 77 times in court documents related to Tupac's.
For the Shakur family, the existence of the Cuba files would be more than answers, it would be a wound torn open. Proof that Tupac survived all these years would also mean proof of betrayal. While millions mourned and hip-hop mythologized a lost king, select insiders profited from the deception, controlling narratives, royalties, and legacies. The weight of that revelation could crush reputations across the industry, not just cities. That may explain why whispers about the Cuba files carry a chilling sense of danger. We stand on the edge of something unprecedented. If these documents go public, they could validate decades of suspicion and prove that Tupac's story is far from finished. Or worse, they could reveal that his fate was sealed not just by a gun on the Vegas Strip, but by an unholy alliance of moguls, politicians, and opportunists who sought his disappearance as convenient. Either way, the Cuba files promise a truth more shocking than anyone dared imagine.
Surprise. We all know who he is and how he get down, so that don't surprise me.
And then there's Suge Knight. Love him or hate him, he's the only man who's seen both sides of this deadly feud up close. Behind the wheel the night Tupac was struck, Suge survived the chaos and built an empire of his own, shadowed in secrets. Now, stripped of power and behind bars on an unrelated conviction, what's left for him? Revenge, redemption, or one last chance to control the narrative? He's dropped hints for years. In a 2014 interview, he flatly stated, "Why you think nobody been arrested?" Suggesting authorities knew more than they admitted. If Mop is opening fire now, Suge could hold the ammunition to blow the case wide open. Imagine him testifying, revealing what really happened on the Strip, or even confirming Tupac staged his exit. Every motive points to exposing Diddy as the architect of a decades-long deception. Could Suge have documents, hidden tapes, or first-hand knowledge we've only speculated about? It's possible. And if he does, the fallout would be nuclear. Suge has nothing to lose except the chance to be remembered as the man who finally brought the truth to light.
It sort of seems like, they're trying to minimize it to just gain.
All of this points to one terrifying possibility. What if it's true? What if federal prosecutors prove that Diddy wasn't just throwing wild parties, but running a full-blown criminal enterprise? Suddenly, every part of his past is up for scrutiny: the bounty claims, secret files, whispered ties to Tupac's disappearance, all dragged into the courtroom spotlight. Even the smallest shred of evidence connecting his empire to Shakur's fate could rewrite hip-hop history in real time. The world wouldn't just witness a mogul fall. We'd see one of music's most powerful figures exposed as the man who may have tried to erase its brightest star. Imagine headlines screaming, "Tupac was alive, Cuba, hidden under threat from Diddy." The shockwaves wouldn't just rattle the industry, they'd shatter trust in the golden age of rap. Every interview, every denial, every award show moment featuring Diddy would be rewatched with suspicion. And the question hanging over it all is chillingly simple. How far was he willing to go to silence the truth? So, we're left hanging on the edge of revelation. If Mopim's words were the first crack, if Suge still holds the dynamite, and federal prosecutors keep pulling thread after thread, we may finally watch the entire tapestry unravel. If Tupac is alive and Diddy orchestrated a decades-long deception to keep it hidden, this scandal could topple the last illusions of hip-hop's untouchable royalty. What do you believe? Was Shakur truly lost on the Vegas Strip, or has he been living in exile all these years while Diddy built his empire on the deception? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this mystery may finally be breaking wide open. Until next time, stay sharp, stay curious, and remember, truth has a way of surfacing, no matter how deep it's buried.